So this is really exciting. Today, right now, we are going full steam ahead, full speed ahead. Whatever they say, it doesn't matter. We are going to get started on cutting, grinding, welding, cutting out some of the old, replacing it with better condition, but still just as old. Either way, man, today we are getting started on the new project and I cannot wait to get into this thing.
And now, you're watching the If You Don't Stack Dimes on a Cracker with Cheese Whiz, Do You Even Weld? Channel of YouTube. Welcome to Bodie Vision.
Hey, so what is up and welcome and thank you so much for joining me yet again on another video. So with this car, the EG Hatch project, I'm actually teaming up with two channels, the guys over at AHC Garage as well as Brian from Paint Society. So right now I'm going to get with Brian, we're going to discuss some of the details and then I'm going to actually get into cutting this car apart. So what is up, Brian?
What's going on? Hey,
up, man?
Good to join you on another build.
So the owner of this car, he's one of the technicians over at AHC. So I'm working with AHC who has their own YouTube channel and Brian also works over there as well. So I understand the expectations as far as what the owner's looking for, but Brian is going to ultimately be in charge of painting the car, but I will go down to the dealership to paint it with him. Now I need to discuss with Brian, I need to know what you expect and where you expect the car to be by the time it gets brought back to you.
So you're saying I'm project manager?
Project manager for paint.
Okay.
I'm project manager for getting it ready to paint.
Basically what I want you to do is do all the filler work, any welding
Okay.
that might need to be done.
Yep.
And then I want you to get the car fully primed in your gray primer or whatever you're going to use. And then at that point, I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring it all down, sand it down, and then bring it down to me in primer, sand it down. I think we're going to put a red primer on there.
Okay, at the dealership.
Yeah, I'll check over the work,
Okay.
make sure everything's good.
Yep.
And you have a little welding here too?
The owner actually gave me this, so there's quite a bit of rust in the back. This is just a cut off patch from another car. So his car is rusted in this area, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to skin graft and transplant this onto the car, but it works out really nicely for me because I only have to make some cuts and match some stuff as opposed to trying to recreate an area. So this all needs to be done obviously before paint.
Yeah, so once you get all this done, I think I might have a chance to come back up and take a look at your progress, and we'll go from there, and then this whole project will come full scale down back at the dealership. So
right,
I think
so it's
that's
going to be dealership starting off,
Yep.
then I'm taking it, then I'm bringing it back to the dealership for you to take it. This is going to be a fun project, man.
it's a lot going on, and we'll try to
Right.
get you all the episodes at once.
Right. But all right, so Brian just wanted to kind of check in with you guys, give me the full scope of what he expects as being the paint manager. I like that.
Paint manager.
Right.
Body shop man. No, not
Yeah.
body shop.
Whatever.
All right, get busy. Get to work. Employee.
Employee, yeah. All right, boss. So with this car, we have this rust right here. And I also have this panel, right? And this panel is the same exact panel and piece that is right there. As you can see them laying on top of one another. They're exactly the same. Now I have some reference points to work off of as they're the same panel. Don't worry about me scratching the roof. I'll make sure everything's good to go. So there's a circle right here, circle right there. This is where this hinge goes. So the idea is I want to cut out as little as possible so that way everything can be and remain. Scratch that, not a 12, that's a 10, baby. Let me know what you guys think about this view and what I have going on. I want to kind of give the feel that we're working together in the shop on a project, you know? Like if you guys were just drinking my beers sitting here watching me, you can do that on the computer. So that came right out. So let me just throw this off to the side. So this corner right here might be a good point for me to measure off of. We'll just say 16 inches. And I'm gonna do that on this one as well. 16 inches, so that's my first point of reference. And it's good to do this as it's on the car because that's not really gonna work. So if I butt that across there, these are just sitting on these ribs. It doesn't matter if this line is straight, it just matters that I get it to be the same line on both pieces, if that makes any sense. So we'll see, let's get into some cutting and then see what happens. Let me cut out the old first. as you can see, we have the well, it's the new piece for this car, the not rusty piece. This is sitting in here, and I got it lined up to the best of my ability with this little trim edge, so that makes sense, right? But what about left and right? So I went ahead and I made this little jig. That's what you'd call it. It's a jig. It serves a purpose for one job, and it does that job very well. That's why it's a jig. So I got this here, and these 10 holes, it's actually a 10 that runs through there, or M6 by 1 or whatever it is. This runs through there, and that fits perfectly centered. I can move equally from the left to the right, front to back, so it's exactly as it was, because as I set up my jig, I put all of the bolts dead center in the middle with nuts on the bottom, so now I know left to right it is all good. See, if I had to have a larger gap on one side and a smaller gap on the other side, that's what I would do, because you need to make the window fit. So we have a little gap over here, but as I pick it up, the metal comes closer to one another, and it is sagging a little bit. Also, you want to make sure that there is actually a gap in there, because I need to get weld in between the two surfaces, not having the surfaces butt up to one another and getting weld on top. It actually needs to be welded together all the way through to be as strong as possible. So I have a little bit more trimming to do, then we're going to weld it on for the final time. I think it's looking pretty good. So as of right now, we have this whole area looking pretty good. I checked it twice, checked it 3 times with my jig. We have a little bit of waves, but I'll just go ahead and fill that in with some filler if I can't beat it out. But as I have my grinder, everything all out, set up, ready to go, as well as my welder, we have these little plates right here. See, John, the owner of this car, just delivered the car with these. So the idea is this area that normally gets beat up, as you can see, it already is beat up. So I just sat them on there, traced out my cut lines. So what I'm gonna do is cut along those lines, clean up the metal a little bit, get rid of some of this rust on here, and then tack these in, and we're moving right along, man. I expect this project to go pretty quickly, honestly. As you can see, I got it tacked in. We got a little bit of a gap right here. I might try to smooth that over, pound that in a little bit. But this one's ultimately positioned where it needs to be. That one over there is welded in. The welds are a little bit chunky, but I'm gonna go ahead and grind it down and then do just a little bit of filler work. The hardest part sometimes about working with these shock tower extensions, whether you make them or whether you buy the plates, is the underside of the actual shock tower itself has rubberized undercoating and like some sound deadening material, and that likes to light on fire. And as it's lit on fire trying to come out of these holes, it's going to contaminate your weld. And I don't know if it's better to try to burn it off before or try to scrape as much as you can, but every time I've done it I've had to work and deal with that. But either way, it turns out just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one to the point that that one is, then grind down the welds. The goal is to get it as close as possible without using any filler at all, so that way if you got to use just a little bit, it's okay. A little filler's not bad. Recreating the entire shock tower out of filler, that's no good. So now that this area over here is looking pretty good, I'm definitely satisfied with how that came out. Once you grind it down, you can really see it start to take shape. A little bit of filler is going to be required, but when it comes to stuff like this, that's just how it goes. So as I'm thinking about what my next steps are and what I have to do, this area in the back, all of that raw, fresh metal, I want to go over it with an epoxy primer. Also in the engine bay, I want to go over this with an epoxy primer as well before I do any body filler. So I need to start to think about that. So I'm looking at the car trying to figure out what else I might have to bring down to bare metal. And then I noticed over here, there's a couple troublesome spots. Like if you can see, underneath the paint, you can see it starting to bubble up, and I believe that is some signs of rust under the paint. It's probably just surface rust. I'm just gonna grind this down, bring it to bare metal, maybe treat it with some OSPO, and then we'll go with the epoxy primer right over that. So that side over there is brought down to bare metal. I also had a couple troublesome spots over here. As I was looking at it, I saw some brown and black little weird spots, and that to me is rust. So I ground that down, got rid of it completely. So now this is just clean. Once I epoxy prime it, I won't have to worry about treating it. It should be completely fine. So as I was looking at the car, thinking about all of the metal that needs to be primed, I have the engine bay, these spots, that over there, also this new stuff obviously. So I was thinking, what else do I still need to do? Now the body of this car, this is a CX body, but these are EX doors. So we don't want to run trim on the car, which would be correct for the actual body of the car. So these holes over here, they're just gonna be welded shut, shaved, gotten rid of. So I might as well do all of that primer at once. So video number one, God damn it, we got a dog over here. What you got going on, huh? So all of that additional work will be coming in the next few videos. So video number one, I think we're at a good point. So thank you so much for watching. Like this video, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of everything thus far, and I will see you on the next one. I'm out.